Tag von Deutschland. Willkommen bei DMEXCO 2016. Das Wetter hier ist unglaublich in Köln diesem Jahr. The weather here is unbelievable in Köln. I think that's the first most notable thing and that is memorable, is that it's not raining in September in Cologne for DMEXCO. So everybody is sort of celebrating that. So bigger than ever, right? Holy madness. Congratulations to Frank and Christian. We've got 4 halls, over 1,000 exhibitors, probably more than 45,000 attendees. It's incredible. So, it's truly international now, right? Less and less of the booths actually have German language or, are not sort of English outside. The lexicon, is pure digital marketing. The US has brought it here to Germany. So this is a large, conference now. It feels like CeBIT did like 15 years ago. That's actually the feel that it has for me. It's a throwback, if you will. There's some incredible things, right? I want to come full circle about my aggregate level takeaway and my summarization, but there's some interesting things I noted. Like, first of all, the agencies here are big, right? So everybody is here, everybody has a presence. It's sort of table stakes to be here. The agency holding companies have probably $250,000 booths here, which I think is insane. And I can't believe they spent that much money. They're big, they're large, they're out. The other thing is that the players here are diverse, right? So there's sort of this big boy table and this little boy table, if you will, right? So it's clear that just old school marketing, digital marketing, emails and, clicks, conversion, that kind of stuff is still big, and that's still sort of local specific, right? You have guys that are probably here and most visible that are European leading that, right? They have sort of requirements in each market. Europe's not a country. We see that, and that is omnipresent. But then there's a big dog table, right? So you got Salesforce, you got SAP, you got Accenture, you've got IBM, Oracle, the marketing automation and sort of this marketing cloud. You have other enterprise software companies making a very big presence and coming in big and making sure they are heard at this show and this conference, which I think speaks volumes. And I think there's a sense of fear, which I'll come back full circle to, right? I think one of the big issues is that there's so much going on here and it's so large, and just our industry right now, it's hard to hear the signal when there's so much noise. And that's been a lot of it, right? The 3-letter acronyms, the language of lexicon of our industry. It's kind of what those big boys or those big dogs that I talk about bring, is they sort of come out and they just talk about business. There's not a lot of lexicon or vernacular that is digital marketing, right, or advertising. They're just talking about moving a P&L, which I think is very interesting and speaks to where we are as an industry, or maybe where we need to go. There was an anticipation that VR, fraud, viewability, all of those things would be a conversation of great relevance here and sort of very present and visible. But I have to be honest, I've only seen them on the panels, and a few of the US companies have talked about that. But there's not a lot of talk about fraud or viewability within the booths themselves as far as the marketing collateral materials. It's not front and center, which I think is important to know, given that we're in Europe. Some US companies are talking about things like programmatic TV, and they're bringing that agenda here and addressable television. I'm just not sure that matters for Europe. I'm not sure that this conversion of television and video and reaching audience and addressability and set-top box level data, I don't know that Europe really cares about that. Maybe Sky does, right? But a third of Sky's audience is on their digital platforms. I'm not seeing a ton of that, and I think that's a lot of us, there's maybe a little bit of diplomacy that we could bring to the table if we're going to make DMEXCO the global digital marketing and advertising show. I think that, data's everywhere, which is really interesting to me. There's so much talk about big data. Every DMP has a booth here. But yet we know that the EU privacy laws are much more restrictive, and we know that sort of big data is not so big. It's maybe a little short in Europe, and it's interesting that, again, we're sort of front and center with our marketing collateral, and this is the constancy of our industry. Our marketing collateral and the lexicon and language we use to talk about our products and our technology are always much further ahead than our product is or our product roadmap is. And I think that chasm is problematic to us and troublesome, if you will. And that sort of leads me to my overall conclusion. It feels like we're on the cusp of something, I don't want to use the word catastrophic, but there's clearly fear and FUD, if you will, in the air, right? Fear and uncertainty and doubt. everyone is throwing forward, I heard a 5-letter acronym yesterday. Seriously, right? 3-letter acronyms are omnipresent. The language is just constant and it's confusing, and we're not talking about moving a P&L. We're talking about, these metrics. Now I hear about we're talking about sort of time, what is it? It's an experience metric, right? A time spent. Things that we create to try and make what we do more valuable, but ultimately we don't take our success metrics back to how our clients perform and how we service them and the value that marketing and advertising provides. I feel like that's about to come to a screeching halt, and there's going to be a gross disruption, right? Like, for example, I'm here at DMEXCO, it's our industry, digital marketing, and I see a group of holding company agency CEOs and senior executives walking around with headsets taking a tour of the show floor. This isn't CES, this is your industry. Like, where have we gotten to a place that the pomp and circumstance and the showmanship is more important than the value creation that we provide to a marketplace and our customers? And I think that we have a lot to learn, that the customer forward and the customer centricity that we talk a lot about, I'm just not sure that we're delivering it. And I think that it's going to get us to a point where we're getting so caught up in the madness of what we do and the presentation layer that ultimately the substance is lacking. And that's what I'm seeing when you peel back the layers here at DMEXCO this year. And that causes me a little of concern, right? I had this sort of existential crisis walking around the show floor yesterday, and I was like, okay, we're not curing cancer, first of all. And why is it so hard? I don't understand that. And it just seems to get harder, and we seem to all be part of the problem collectively. I'm raising my hand to say I have self-awareness and I'm part of the problem as well. So coming out of this again, I think there's an opportunity for us to really, eliminate some of the mystique, provide some sort of, for all of us to converge on a common purpose and a common direction. And that is not about complexity and marketing materials. It's about building better products that solve holistic problems and integrating and working together as an industry. I'm going to keep waving that flag. I'm going to keep waving the flag. There are enough problems for all of us to solve, and I think DMEXCO shows that there's an opportunity moving forward. So I welcome your thoughts, questions. It was great to see you. Tschüss, bis nächstes Jahr here in Köln. Bye.